up 30% ownership, they can invest in what the government calls equity equivalence programs. That includes skills training, digital infrastructure, and support for historically disadvantaged communities. This option already exists in other sectors, and now it's being extended to the communications industry. But this move comes in the middle of a very public fight, because Elon Musk made it personal. Earlier this year, the South African-born billionaire accused his birth country of enforcing what he called openly racist ownership laws. He posted that Starlink could not operate in South Africa because he is not black. Even US President Donald Trump criticized the policy as anti-white. The South African government rejected the claim. The presidency said Musk was misrepresenting the law and that South Africa would not change their rules for one single company.
He thinks he can bully us into submission with his deliberate dishonesty. We will not be bullied.
And fast forward to the present day, and the communication minister says the policy shift is not about Musk. He insists the goal of this new directive is to provide connectivity to remote, underserved parts of South Africa.
This alignment will help attract more investment, support meaningful transformation, and improve the lives of South Africans, especially those in rural and underserved communities who still lack access to high-speed internet.
Starlink already operates in 26 African countries. Some of those nations border South Africa. High-speed internet that doesn't need cables, towers, or ground infrastructure is a major advantage across the continent. And for rural South Africa, it could be a game changer. But domestic politics tells a completely different story. Affirmative action, known in South Africa as broad-based black economic empowerment, sits at the centre of post-apartheid policy. It was designed in 1994 to correct decades of exclusion under white minority rule. And inside South Africa, the backlash has been fierce. The ruling African National Congress Party says the communication minister has overstepped his authority. The ANC argues no minister can change ownership rules. Only the parliament can do that. The ANC is especially alarmed by one detail. The proposed workaround could allow Starlink to avoid the 30% ownership rule by reportedly pledging to provide free internet to just 5,000 rural schools. ANC alleges this is just a shortcut for Musk to get access to the South African market. Others raise security concerns. Starlink is controlled by one man, and critics point to Ukraine, where Starlink access was limited during the war.
Elon Musk is a huge security risk. We can't have that Starlink thing here.
And this debate isn't just about South Africa. Across Africa, Starlink's expansion has sparked similar tensions. In Lesotho, the government...
South Africa's decision to relax regulatory rules that had effectively blocked Starlink from operating in the country marked a turning point in the long and often tense relationship between Pretoria and major U.S. technology firms. What appeared on the surface as a technical policy adjustment quickly revealed deeper layers of geopolitical pressure, economic calculation, and a changing global contest over digital infrastructure. For years, Starlink, the satellite internet company owned by Elon Musk's SpaceX, had been unable to launch services in South Africa. The obstacle was not technology or demand, but regulation. South Africa's telecommunications framework requires foreign companies operating in the sector to meet strict local ownership and empowerment rules, including minimum equity participation by historically disadvantaged groups. These policies, rooted in the country's post-apartheid transformation agenda, are politically sensitive and deeply embedded in law. Starlink resisted these requirements. Unlike traditional telecom operators, it argued that its satellite-based model did not fit neatly into existing frameworks designed for terrestrial networks. Negotiations dragged on with little progress. At various points, Musk publicly criticized the rules, calling them discriminatory and outdated. South African officials pushed back, insisting that no company, regardless of origin, could be exempt from national law. For a time, the standoff appeared frozen. Then the pressure began to mount. Starlink's expansion across Africa accelerated. Neighboring countries approved licenses. Rural communities elsewhere on the continent gained high-speed internet access almost overnight. The contrast became increasingly uncomfortable for South Africa, where millions remain underserved and connectivity gaps continue to hinder education, business, and government services. At the same time, diplomatic signals from Washington grew stronger. U.S. officials framed Starlink not just as a commercial product, but as strategic infrastructure. In an era of rising cyber competition and information warfare, satellite internet was increasingly viewed as a tool of national influence. Countries that excluded American digital infrastructure risked drifting toward rival technological ecosystems dominated by China or other powers. South Africa found itself at the intersection of these pressures. Internally, business groups warned that blocking Starlink sent a negative signal to foreign investors. Technology startups argued that lack of affordable broadband limited innovation. Rural advocacy organizations pointed to missed opportunities in healthcare, agriculture, and disaster response. The government faced growing criticism that ideology was slowing progress. Externally, the United States quietly but firmly signaled its displeasure. While no official ultimatum was issued, the message was unmistakable. Continued exclusion of a major U.S. tech platform could have broader consequences for trade, investment, and diplomatic goodwill. Against this backdrop, South Africa announced a regulatory adjustment. Rather than requiring direct equity ownership, foreign satellite companies could meet empowerment obligations through alternative mechanisms. These included skills development programs, infrastructure investment, enterprise support, and local partnerships. The core principles of transformation remained, officials said, but the pathway became more flexible. Starlink's path into South Africa was suddenly clear. The announcement triggered immediate reaction. Supporters hailed it as pragmatic and overdue. Critics accused the government of bending under U.S. pressure. Social media erupted with debates over sovereignty, fairness, and the power of multinational corporations. Government officials rejected claims of capitulation. They emphasized that the policy change applied broadly, not just to Starlink. The goal, they argued, was modernization. Telecommunications had evolved faster than regulation, and the law needed to catch up. Yet few doubted that Starlink was the catalyst. Elon Musk, who was born in South Africa but has long criticized its policies, welcomed the move. His company began preparations to roll out services, promising to connect remote communities, schools, farms, and businesses that had long been left behind by fiber and mobile networks. The timing was significant. South Africa faces persistent challenges with infrastructure reliability, including frequent power outages that disrupt traditional networks. Satellite internet, independent of ground-based cables and towers, offered resilience that few alternatives could match. For the United States, the development was a strategic win. Starlink's entry strengthened American technological presence in a key African economy. It reinforced Washington's broader effort to counter China's growing digital footprint on the continent, where Chinese firms have built extensive telecom infrastructure over the past decade. The decision also fit into a wider recalibration of U.S.-South Africa relations. Ties between the two countries have been strained by disagreements over foreign policy, trade alignment, and global conflicts. Cooperation on technology offered a rare area of convergence. Still, the move raised uncomfortable questions. Was South Africa compromising its empowerment agenda to appease foreign interests? Or was it adapting policy to a changing technological landscape? Could local companies compete with a global giant backed by U.S. political weight? And what precedent did this set for future negotiations with multinational firms? Analysts noted that empowerment policies were never intended to block innovation. Their purpose was to ensure inclusion and shared benefit. If alternative compliance mechanisms delivered real skills, jobs, and infrastructure, the outcome could still align with national goals. Others remained skeptical. They warned that powerful corporations often promise local benefits that fail to materialize at scale. Without strict oversight, alternative compliance could become symbolic rather than substantive. The Starlink case also highlighted the growing role of geopolitics in domestic regulation. Decisions once framed purely as internal policy choices are now entangled with global power dynamics. Smaller and mid-sized economies must navigate pressure from competing blocs while protecting national interests. In South Africa's case, the calculation was complex. The country seeks foreign investment but also autonomy. It champions transformation while facing urgent development needs. It maintains ties with both Western and non-Western powers in an increasingly polarized world. Relaxing the rules was not a simple surrender. It was a trade-off. For ordinary South Africans, the immediate concern was access. In rural provinces where connectivity remains unreliable or non-existent, Starlink promised a leap forward. Farmers could access real-time market data, clinics could connect to specialists, students could participate in online learning. These practical benefits weighed heavily in public opinion. Telecom incumbents reacted cautiously. Some welcomed competition as a driver of innovation. Others warned of regulatory imbalance, arguing that satellite providers should not enjoy lighter obligations than terrestrial networks that invested billions in infrastructure under stricter rules. The government pledged to ensure a level playing field. Regulators emphasized that licensing, spectrum management, and service standards would still apply. Starlink would not operate in a vacuum. International observers viewed the episode as emblematic of Africa's digital crossroads. The continent is emerging as a battleground for technology influence, with competing models of governance, ownership, and control. South Africa's decision signaled openness to U.S. platforms while attempting to preserve policy autonomy. China's response was muted but attentive. Chinese tech firms already entrenched in Africa's telecom sector watched closely. Any sign that African governments were tilting toward U.S. providers carried implications for future contracts and partnerships. The broader lesson was clear. Digital infrastructure is no longer neutral. It is strategic. Decisions about who connects a nation also shape who influences it. As Starlink prepares to launch in South Africa, the long-term impact remains uncertain. Success will depend on affordability, reliability, and the extent to which promised local benefits materialize. Regulatory flexibility must translate into tangible empowerment, not just access. For South Africa, the episode underscores the difficulty of governing in a globalized economy. Standing firm can carry costs, adapting can invite criticism. The challenge lies in balancing principle with progress. What is undeniable is that the rules changed. And when they did, they revealed how much power technology now holds over policy, diplomacy, and the future of development. South Africa did not simply open the door to Starlink. It stepped into a new phase of global negotiation, where connectivity, sovereignty, and influence are inseparable.
You've been watching Echoes of Africa, where every story carries the sound of tomorrow. If this moved you, subscribe now, like, and share so Africa's voice never fades into silence.